Welcome everybody. I think we're live now. We're just gonna allow a couple of seconds for everybody to join. Now, first of all, welcome again, guys. We'll get right into this. So, if it's your first time joining us, I'm Edgar. I'm one of the account executives at TaxDome. I've been here 4 years. Have helped a lot of you to get your systems up and running, and I'm also very happy to be able to do these webinars with you because we can cover all the functionality, discuss best practices, and answer your questions. Russell, again, nice to have you here today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Russ Hoskins, CPA. I'm here in Orlando, Florida. I've been using TaxDome since 2021, and I'm happy to be here to talk about workflows and pipelines with Edgar again today.
Awesome, perfect. Now, about the agenda today. Uh, Today is all about workflows. Okay, so if even if you are a new user to TaxDome, if you are an advanced user, maybe you've been using TaxDome for 1 or 2 years. Okay, this is still going to be very relevant to you. Because we're going to cover, first of all, just do a quick recap on the concepts, the terminology of workflows. We'll utilizing the pipeline template that we were discussing yesterday. We will talk about conditional automation. So we'll tell you all about these different use cases, how you can actually take advantage of it and implement it into your workflow. We will have a discussion, brief discussion as well on recurring jobs. So if you have not been able to use those, or you haven't really had the chance to implement recurring workflows, we will be discussing how you can start using those. Fourthly, we will talk about optimizing your pipelines. So this is going to be great for users that have been with us for for a couple months or years, because we'll talk about some of the features that came out throughout the year and how you can start basically optimizing your pipelines, your existing workflows with those features. And finally, once we discuss the pipeline structure, and we'll do a quick test as well with a dummy client. We will talk about how you can manage all of your jobs as during the day-to-day activities. So we want to let you guys know what happens when you have 100 or 500 jobs that are active in your practice, and what are the different ways you can actually look at the data, analyze, and then actually use it, right? All right. So back to the workflow terminology, guys. Yesterday, we were talking about what a pipeline was, right? So just to make it clear, a pipeline is nothing other than a process, right? So if you prepare returns, the tax return preparation is your process, is your pipeline, and then your process will have steps that will accomplish it, and then of course that describe the process from beginning to end. So for example, for preparing a return, I have a step in which I get documents. I have another step in which I review documents, I prepare returns, I review them, right? And I deliver it to the client. So all those steps, we call them stages in TaxDome. And then the clients that will be a project, or the clients will flow through those statuses or stages, that's what we call the jobs. Those are individual instances of work that you track individually, and those will be basically moving across your process. And then finally, we're just talking a little bit about the what were the tasks. Now the tasks, just so everything is clear here, guys, are just internal to-do items that get assigned to your team, and the tasks will make those jobs progress through the process. So if I have a job called Edgar's 2023 return, right, that is sitting in the preparation stage, the task will be to prepare the return. So somebody has to complete that, and so the job moves and progresses through the different stages. Now, before we continue, Russell, you were telling us a little bit yesterday, when you started using TaxDome, was there any specific best practices, so that any way that your team would understand workflows better? Like, how did you train your staff on it?
Well, I wished, you really cut right through it yesterday. I think everybody liked the pizza analogy, but like you said, it's the process. A pipeline is just the process of it. It's not of how you move a return or any project or job. How you move it through your office. from the very beginning of engaging the client, sending an engagement letter, organizers, and so the pipeline is that process. And so that's kind of how I try to explain it, to my staff. And we didn't have that before. We didn't have something where we could you know trigger emails to clients and or trigger engagement letters to automatically go out to clients. We had to manually, if we wanted to send out 400 engagement letters or 400 tax organizers, or 600 organizers, we had to manually go into our tax software, and we had to process those and do those. And that was a significant undertaking each year to do that for all of our tax clients. So it saves us a lot of time.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. And then we'll talk about where I'm going to start sharing my screen in just a couple of minutes. But this is for those of you that have been using TaxDome for a while. And look, this is something I see very often, Russell. When I talk to firms that have been using TaxDome for 1 year, 2 years sometimes, it's sometimes difficult because we do so much on the development side, and we release so many new things so often that sometimes it's difficult to just continue tailoring and kind of tweaking your process and keep the pace with our development team. So what I see a lot is a lot of users are not using fully like all the automation or all the opportunities for automation within their workflows. And so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what are the best practices when it comes to continuing optimizing and configuring your pipeline according to what's released on the development side.
Sure. One of the great things I say about TaxDome is they're constantly releasing new features and staying ahead of the competition. Our old portals, I think, had over a period of 15 years that we used them, probably 2 or 3 significant updates over 15 years, and TaxDome has, I think, 2 or 3 updates significant a month. And so it's great because we're constantly able to add new features into our workflow. And so one of the things that we try to do and build into our pipelines is communications with clients and touch points with clients, whether that be the kickoff message or messages, the client statuses, where we can send out both in the portal, give them a message saying, hey, your tax return's in process or it's being reviewed. But also we can send out update chats that say that same thing, that will say, hey, your returns in process, and we're going to follow up if we have any questions. And in that way, a lot of times that heads off for us, that they know that they just want to be assured that their returns being worked on. And so that sometimes that might knock out, 5, 10, 15 calls a week that maybe we would have had to take and field, that they know, hey, their returns being worked on and we're addressing it. And those are automated because we've moved the job into the prepare stage. And we're updating those statuses, and from the job card you can update the portal status and put your own custom language by client, which is very nice. The job status that the client sees in the portal, and so it really has a lot of features that you can use that is client facing, from the chats to the statuses.
I agree to everything you said. There's one specific thing that I saw in the Q&A just come up here by Samantha. So guys, just so you know, this year TaxDome is releasing quite a few things, right? And so during today's webinar, we'll go over some of the things that I believe, and Russ would agree with that as well, that you should start looking into implementing for next tax season. Samantha, I see your question here that about client-specific automation in a pipeline. Now, the good news for you is this feature's still in our plans. It's in our roadmap. Now, there's more than that coming, right? But the bottom line is, yes, we will soon release something that will solve that need. And so in the future, you will absolutely be able to just create automation specific to each account in your workflows. And I think when it comes out, I think you're gonna absolutely love it. Our team is gonna continue doing educational content, webinars on every time we do a major release like that one. I'm sure a lot of you have been able to join us on some of the webinars we do that are specific to features like we did, for example, with reports. So rest assured, you will get at least an email telling you guys about when the feature release is coming, and we'll tell you all about how you can use it also.
But to her question, to Samantha's question regarding specific automations for building into your pipeline for specific clients, the great thing about the TaxDome and the automations is once you kind of set up your general automations, your pipelines that will apply to all your clients. If you do want to have a specific client request go out each month to a specific client or a specific 10 or 15 clients, those are easy to build in. And so if you have one client that you want to get one specific client request, that's as simple as creating a tag for that client, and that client will be the only client that has that tag, and you're going to put that in the stage of the job that you want. So there's you won't necessarily design from the start, but on the backside, we absolutely now in our pipelines will have some specific, in our bookkeeping pipelines, some specific client requests or client tasks that we will do, from things like pulling bank feeds or doing certain tasks that we want that are built in just for that client. And we accomplish that by, we might have 30 or 40 specific client tags that are just that client name, and it's a client request, or it's a something that's just generating a client chat with a checklist of information we want. So that's the beauty, as we're going to talk about today, the pipelines and automations that you can do, and you can tailor it down to the client level. But broadly, you don't have to. You can send you can do that on a one-off with your clients, or you can automate it in the pipeline.
Awesome, thank you very much. And Russell, I think what we before we get right into it, because we're about to bombard you guys with functionality in a couple of minutes. So if so, I think we'll allow just a couple of questions that are about specific to your practice, Russ. Somebody was asking, what would you say the percentage is of your client base that actually use TaxDome, and can you tell us a little bit about the strategies you use to drive higher adoption?
Well, I think as far as e-signing their tax returns in the portals, we're at 90%, and so we're real happy with that. And we tag our clients that are paper clients, but all of our clients are in TaxDome. So I think I would start there. All of our document management is for all of our clients are in TaxDome. We want all of our workflows and all of our pipelines. All clients, it's our knowledge base. So just because the client might not use TaxDome, that 10% that won't upload or sign their return in TaxDome, their returns, we're going to still upload the return there for our purposes. That's how we do it. Now, we still are going to print a copy for them to come in and sign and that kind of thing. But we're 100% TaxDome on our side. But we'll meet the client where they are, and we do have about 10% of our clients that are paper, or sometimes we've just got to file on paper, and so we've got to go outside of TaxDome. As far as uploading, some clients are still, we try to discourage them from sending documents via email, but it's hard to stop. And so as far as like other parts of TaxDome, I don't know that I have a real good easy way to determine that, because we 15-person firm, a lot of data comes in from a lot of different fronts. But I do know on the signature side of returns, we're getting 90% of our clients are signing in the portal. But we're probably, like most firms, my guess is we're probably getting somewhere around half of our clients are uploading, and then we're probably having a third of our clients probably emailing or mailing documents to us is my guesstimate. But we're not tracking that yet. I wouldn't mind seeing that. We might have to come up with a way to track how our clients are getting us the data. What do you think, Edgar? You think
You know
what would
what?
you think that generally most TaxDome users are seeing?
Yeah, no. So what I see is actually, saying 90% of your clients have at least logged in or have looked at the system or are aware of it. I think it's very impressive, like most people think. What I see more, look, and this is more of the kind of the average numbers I see personally, is during your first year, you want to aim for like at least a 30% of clients trying to at least adopting it. And when I say adopting it, I mean they log in at least once, they retrieve the returns, they learn how to retrieve, look at their prior year documents or e-sign a document at the very, very least. But this is something that improves gradually as
Yeah.
well, right?
And I would add to that, Edgar, is be ready to walk them through it. I mean, and also our clients that initially had a little bit of trouble getting online for whatever reason, we would immediately direct them to the phone app. And most everybody, has phone apps. Very nice feature of the phone app is facial recognition. So now they don't even have to, once you walk them through it and get them set up, they don't have to remember a password. And they got their phone with them all the time. So if you need them to sign something, you can call them on the phone and say, hey, I need you to look at this and sign it right away. And they don't have to remember a password. So the phone app. So some clients, we that first year, so we didn't make it easy for them by saying, hey, well, let me send you a password, a PDF of the return, or hey, come by the office, or that. We tried to get them over the technology hurdle in our office. We tried to say, hey, this is let me walk you through the app. Let me get you to download the app on your phone, or are you at your computer? Let me walk you through how to log in on your computer and get you signed in, and we'll walk you through signing in, whether it's you use LogMeIn or Zoom, or we do a quick 5-minute Zoom meeting and review the return with them and get them to sign their return. But we try to get them comfortable with the technology as well, and we didn't have to do that a lot. But afterwards, most clients were like, "Oh, well, that was easy," and that's easy. And so if you give them an easy out and say, well, here, let me just send you a PDF of the return, which you probably shouldn't be doing, or you say, come on by the office, you're not going to get that adoption rate real high. I think you gotta get them over the technology hurdle.
Well, yeah, like you said a couple of seconds ago, right? You just have to meet the client in the middle somewhere,
Yeah.
middle ground.
Yeah, some clients you're never going to get over that hurdle. We get that, like I gauge
Yeah,
that, and I feel like after all these years, I can gauge that pretty quickly. I can be told no, and then some clients I know, they're using technology for a lot of things. They're using technology for banking and for this and for that, and they can add our tech stack to it. So some, I try to gauge, are they a good candidate or not? So, and I think we should all work for that. We should all work to try to get our clients to, because it's better for them. It's safer for them than try to email it to us or mail it. Maybe the documents get lost in the mail. So I just feel like it works better for them if they use TaxDome.
amazing. Thank you very much for that, Russ. And I love what Samantha said here in the Q&A as well. Samantha said we get more clients and more clients switching over to using the portal the longer we have it, especially when the weather gets bad. So that just gets back to the more reasons you give people to use the portal. Like maybe something that I used to say to clients of firms that I worked with was I would do a lot of emphasis on the security of it, right? You want to protect yourself against identity theft, fraud, and sensitive information being in your email. That's not good, right? So just trying to emphasize on the security. I think for a lot of people makes sense, and that they'll probably not mind a lot. Just
Yeah.
clicking a link on an email and just entering a password that they will create. And then you need to be ready to assist with that too. Like if they need to reset the password, you can assist with that, or you can teach them how to do them themselves. There's a lot of different
Sure.
options.
Another thing I would add too is, we all pick up a decent number of new clients each year, and getting them trained the right way right from the start and vetting out who's going to be a good TaxDome client. for you is also important. So we use a pipeline, a new prospect pipeline for all of our new clients. And so when a client calls the office, we immediately, our admin team here, we will set them up. We let them know on that call that, hey, we're going to have one of our CPAs reach out to you. But in the meantime, we're going to set you up in TaxDome, and we're going to ask you for some information we want to see. And we'd like you to upload that information so that when our CPA calls you, he can have the information we'd like to see. And right there, we ask them for the things we want to see, whether that be 2 years of tax returns or if that admin person's going to do a little bit of vetting and know whether that's a business and do we need to get a invite to a QuickBooks online file. So we're going to have some things and that's all automated in our pipeline. So our admin person will set that person up, and then it's going to send out this a chat from TaxDome saying, give us 2 years tax returns, give us current year. If it's a 1040 prospect, it's going to what we would ask for a 1040 client, and it would be everything to do the return, at W-2s, everything that we would want, both to do a proposal and really hit the ground running to do their 1040. I mean, and then right there, we know whether we got a good client or not, because either they're going to fight us to give us information or they're going to just give us everything. And from there, the CPA can call them, talk to them a little bit more, get them comfortable with us. We send them a proposal, all doing this in the pipeline with automations. And then we've already got the information. They've already uploaded the information. And if they fight us on that, we'll if they meet some other parameters for us, they're in an industry we want to work in or something like that, then we may still work with them. But if they're fighting us on getting information or using TaxDome, we may not take them on. So that's another reason why we have high TaxDome usage as well, is because we tend to go after the clients that are going to use our technology. And so over the last few years, if I get a client and they immediately upload all their information, give me their date of birth, give me everything I need to do their tax return, and they called in the office at 9:00 and they've uploaded everything by 9:30. I'm going to get on the phone by 10, probably have them engaged, and we're going to have the return done that day. In many cases, and so TaxDome will let you do that, and you're going to know whether you're going to have someone's going to use your technology or someone going to say, no, I want to come in and I don't have this information together, or I don't have that. I don't have copies of my prior year return. Then I know it's probably going to be hard to work with them. And so right off the bat, I know within, a day, whether they've uploaded all their information that I've requested. If they can't do it while they're looking for a brand new CPA, they're probably never going to be a client that's going to get me everything. So that's probably not always the case, but that's kind of how we do a little bit of our vetting.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're actually doing that. But yeah, definitely try to implement that, guys. I want to jump here right into just covering just more in depth the concept of what a job is, because I'm about to share my screen. I just want to make it super clear, guys, because when I share my screen, what you're going to be looking at is a template of a pipeline. This is specific for tax preparation. And we're going to be testing the pipeline with a sample job. So we're going to actually add a client to the pipeline and walk through that process. And we're going to be looking at both the firm perspective and the client perspective, right? So when I add my clients to a workflow called tax preparation, the job, right, is going to have different tasks. And some of those tasks will, like I said before, make that job advance and progress through the workflow, through the pipeline. Some of those tasks, so you can just get a couple of examples here. We consider a task, for example, preparing the return. We consider a task reviewing documents, or reviewing any missing items, questions. The communication itself, when you're missing information, sometimes you want to make a task to just either call the client or go get those missing documents, or go communicate with the client somehow to get those open items cleared. Now, I'm going to share my screen now. And all right, just want to make sure you guys can see. I'm gonna be looking at this process that I'm showing you right here. Just give me a few reactions just to make sure the screen is big enough. If you guys can see it clearly, please let me know. All right. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. Now I'm gonna click the go to pipeline button. And if you weren't here yesterday, um, we copied this template from the library. So for those that don't have it yet, you should be looking at the screen, or at least have it somewhere on your own library. But if you don't have it, you're gonna find this template. I'm gonna pin the menu here on the side. You're gonna find the template within the templates menu here on the side, and pipelines is where you want to go. Within pipelines, you have the copy from library button. So if you don't have the pipeline yet, if you don't have the workflow that we'll be looking at and using during today's webinar, you can copy it here in the library. And the name of the template is going to be Bootcamp 2024 Tax Preparation. And then you can click this button to actually bring that template over into your own personal library. So if you have questions, or if if this wasn't clear enough, let us know in the Q&A. Our team's going to give you instructions in written format, so you can copy the template and actually use it during today's webinar. So I'm going to go back here to my workflows and open up the Bootcamp 2024 pipeline. Now, the first thing I want to do here, guys, is I want to add a job to this process, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add one job manually by clicking the button on the right hand side of the page. I have adding a job as an option. So I'm going to click that, right? And the first thing the system is going to want to do for me is it will ask me, right, what client am I adding to the process? In this case, I did create here, but before the webinar, of course, I created a dummy client, John Doe and spouse, okay, who I'm going to be using for purposes of just testing this workflow. If you have not created a dummy client in your own test account, your own TaxDome account, I strongly recommend doing that. And then once you have that client, that dummy client, go ahead and add them to the workflow here. Now, this here is one of the templates that we created yesterday with Fabiola. So what this template is essentially doing for me, and look, it's okay if you don't have one now, it is basically filling in some of the details in this form for me. I have one here called last year tax return, and this will give me all this different data. It's assigning the job to Edgar automatically. It's giving the job a budget, priority. It's giving, it's filling in all these details for me. And that's what the template does. And I think you want to have one, because adding a job is something you end up doing multiple times, right? So you definitely want to have this. We'll talk about how you can create it again later. And I'm just going to go here and use this one. Now, I saw some of the questions yesterday were asking about what you do when it comes to the job start and due date. Most people for tax returns, I think they use absolute dates. So for example, next due date for a tax return is going to be April 15th. So you would just typically here use an absolute date for the due date at least. And then the start date is what's going to show in your jobs list as when the job became active first. And so here, this is not fully necessary, but typically it is just the day when you added the job. So you can do this. And then everything else is, well, it's optional, but the description is going to help your team just understand what's happened so far, if there's any specific things that they should know about the project. And then this is one of the newer things, right? When you're adding a job to a pipeline, to a workflow, right now we have something called client-facing status. Essentially, what this means is if I turn this on, right, like we were saying yesterday, the client's gonna, when they log into their systems or to their mobile app, they will see an active or work in progress, right? And they will see the project name, and they could, if you want it, they could see a status for the job, a status for the work in progress. So for example, if I want to let my clients know that I'm waiting for their documents, right? and I want to let them know as soon as they log into the app, this is the first thing I want them to see on the page. Well, I would use the client-facing status, turn that on, okay? And then just here, for example, this is going to be the name that shows for the client. So I can just here use the last year and then return. And then I can say here any status that I want. So if I can just say, if I just want to say plant, and I can say here, I need your documents, or I need you to sign your engagement letter. So, this is one of the things I can do. I'm going to add the job, and then within this template, this workflow that we copied from the library, what we did is we added 2 different types of automation to the first stage of the workflow. The first stage is intake, okay? And when I add a client to it, when I add a job to it, the system will ask me if I want to trigger all the automation, or if I want to consider triggering all the automation that I configured into the stage. What I want to do here is I actually don't want to touch anything, because everything's pre-configured into the stage. So this here are conditional automations. We'll explain how you can actually set these up, okay? But what's basically going to happen is these are all the possibilities, right? And when I add the client, the system will try to find matches with the current client tagging system. So if my client is a 1040 and I tagged my client, I applied my tag at 1040, the system will know that, and it will trigger just the automation that is specific for that group of clients. In this case, I'm adding a 1040 dummy client. So the only ones, even though all boxes are checked, the only ones that will actually fire up will be the engagement letter specific to individual clients. And then they will also get a personal tax questionnaire here. So those are the only 2 that will actually, they will trigger based off of this. I'm going to click move here so you can see what happens. Now, the next screen I get here is the job. So this is basically the job description, all the details about the project that I just created. Now, before I continue, Russell, I'm going to make a quick pause here. And I see some questions related to the jobs. But before we talk about your questions, guys, Russell, I want you to tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that you were telling us about yesterday that you do when you create jobs. What is the best practice on naming the jobs, at least for you?
Sure. Well, when we add jobs, one of the things I would definitely point out here on this screen that Edgar's looking at here is you can bulk. So if you're adding, say, all your 1040 jobs at once, which is, say whatever, 500 1040s, you can come back and bulk change all this information except one thing, the name. Okay. And so unfortunately right now we can't change the name. So you better have that name the way you like it. The only way you can change the name after you create 500 jobs is to delete those 500 jobs and start over, or change them one at a time. So get that name right. And so how we name it, and again, this is just our current naming convention. And bear with me just one second, because I'm going to pop over into my TaxDome so I can see our job naming for our 1040. Our 1040 is, we've got a formula for the year. Then we say 1040, and then we say dash account name. And that's how we choose to do it. And there's the reason why we use the account name, as I said yesterday, is that when you use job comments that are on the job card field, when you get notifications for tasks on the task screen, various places in the program will have the job listed. And if the job just says 2024 1040 or 2024 personal tax return, you don't know which client it is. And so in several places in the program, you might get an email, and if it's on the job, it will just say 2024 tax return, and it won't say in the email which client it is. Okay. And so you need that account name in the job name, or else you can't really tell by the notification that you get. And that's true in the app. The app also has job listings, a new feature that just came out in the app. will show jobs. And so we've now renamed all of our jobs to include our account name. But it's a personal preference. But I think if you test it out both ways, I would put account name in the job. We don't find it necessary in the task, but some people might find that they want the job, the account name. I'm sorry. They want the account name in the task as well. But we're choosing not to. We don't want our tasks. Our task names are already a little bit long, and so we just don't want those to get too long. And so we keep our jobs names short, like with 1040 or 1120s. We try to keep them fairly short.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And somebody was asking as well if you can actually pull reports based of start and due dates. The answer is yes, guys. Totally.
Yes.
So this will, I think, be important, especially when you're looking. If you want to look at what's getting closer to its deadline, not only with return preparation, but maybe if you have
and all these can be bulk change. So if you pick the wrong start date, or you don't like your start date, or extension time, and now the due date on your 1040s needs to be extended, you can bulk change the due date. Same thing if you set up your 1040s already and you didn't put a budget on there and you want to come back and bulk change, we'll show you later how to you can bulk change really pretty much everything on this job card, but the name right now.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, I want to go back here really quickly to what just happened, because we just did it for one client right now, but this is something you can do, like Russ said, with 500 clients at once. You can add 500 jobs, send 500 engagement letters, 500 questionnaires all at once. So it's all thanks to what's pre-configured in the pipeline. So if my pipeline's first stage, it wants to send an email to all the clients, right? Adding those 500 jobs will trigger that email gets sent. So those are some of the things you want to kind of consider when you're building a pipeline. Is when you're adding the jobs first, the pipeline will want to trigger the automation on the first stage of it. Now, this client in particular, and I'm going to say this because I also saw it in the Q&A earlier, was what kind of notification does that client get when I add them to the pipeline? How do they get notified about their action items? Because this pipeline in particular is sending both a questionnaire and it's also sending an engagement letter, right? So this client in particular, I'm going to click the job now again, so you can see what's in it. As you can see here, we have one pending proposal or engagement letter, and then one pending organizer. So this we have two things the client has to complete. If I configured it correctly, my client would have only gotten one email. They could get two depending on the configuration of the notifications you have for the client. We'll talk about best practices on that too. But the bottom line is the client's getting notified by email. That email gets sent not from your mailbox if it's an action item for TaxDome. So for example, if I am sending a proposal through TaxDome or an organizer through TaxDome, the client gets an email, and the email is going to be sent from I think it's notifications@taxdome.com. So it is a system generated email, okay? And it will use a client name. It will use your first name. It will make it look like if it was you sending it. And ultimately, it will have a button that the clients can click to go complete those action items that you gave them. So, for example, here I'm gonna actually really quickly, I'm gonna share my other tab here just to show you what it could be like for a client. So I'm gonna go here to my other tab, and I will go to so to give you guys some context, I'm pretending to have logged in here as a client using the mobile application. But the interface is going to be different, of course, if they use a desktop app. The point here is clients will click the button in their email, okay? And they'll get to a page where they have to log in. Now, if they're new to the system will ask them to create a password. This particular client that I have here, that I pulled up here, has already logged in before. So all I had to do is I had to use my, my Face ID, my 4-digit PIN to log in with the app. But if it's a new client, they will have to create a password. I'm going to log into the first account here so we can see what's in there. Let me go ahead and 1 second, make a quick pause here. and just make sure those action items show on the client side here. All right, I'm going to go here on the firm side to the client profile. I can see here the number 1 on the organizers, number 1 also on the proposal section. I'm going to go back now to the client perspective. And so I just refreshed here. So there's 3 things that just happened, right? The client now is seeing this work in progress section that's right in the middle of the page. So here, they see your 2023 return. We need your documents, right? So client just got a questionnaire, and they got also an engagement letter. Let's go through that really quickly. So I'm going to click the proposal first, the engagement letter. This is just one of the templates that we created for you guys. It has a logo here on the top of the page. You can add multimedia to it as well. So if you want, right, you can add your pictures or videos to the actual experience on the client end. Your engagement letter can also utilize shortcodes. So we were discussing yesterday how you can just add specific pieces of dynamic data that will pull from the client profile. So if you, within your engagement letter, you need to have the client's address, the client's names, or contact details, you can add them here as well. I think, Ross, I think you're utilizing pricing are you using it for invoices or in your engagement letters as well? How is that being used right now?
Yeah, so we have engaged in our engagement letters. We have a conditional field, so that we have 2 engagement letters that we will potentially send out. One that just says standard hourly rates, and so maybe half our clients are going to be just getting that engagement letter that's standard hourly rates, and then we've got one that will give clients pricing, and we've set up custom fields for our pricing, and then it's going to that second engagement letter will pull in the custom field for that pricing, and we use that quite a bit on our bookkeeping engagement letters, but also on our business engagement letters, and many of our 1040 engagement letters where we've given a proposal with pricing, and so we're using custom fields, and we track in custom fields already all of our clients' pricing. We project what we're going to price for each year for our 1040 and bookkeeping and our main services, and then many of our clients we will build that into our our engagement letter. So we're still sending out the engagement letters. So we have basically every client's going to have 2 tags. It's either going to have it's going to be standard hourly tag, or it's going to be a pricing. They're going to have a pricing tag where they're going to be from that custom field.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. Now, for the client, right, the experience is exactly that. They get the engagement letter. It's an electronic document, so they just have to go through the process, hit next on their their phones or computers, and they have to sign it somehow. So now, I already had input my signature before, but the experience for somebody who is using the system for the first time is they will either have to type it or draw it, hit sign, okay, accept the terms, and then complete that signature. And that's really just it for the engagement letter section. The client gets an email, they click the button, they sign it through the app or sign it through the they can use also their browsers on their phones, and that's really it. So now on the other hand, we have the questionnaires. Now, if you are going to be utilizing TaxDome organizers to to collect client details, the experience for the client will be very similar to this. Again, they get an email for it, they click the button. This is one of the templates that we've been using, and it just tells the client what to expect. Clients need to, of course, provide you with answers. You can make some of these answers required, okay, and some of these answers not required. I'm just gonna, if I, for example, I see here's a client, I don't have button to skip it or to submit it because some of these answers are required. Like the first one, I gotta answer all these questions. For those that have not used organizers before, guys, these are essentially a form that the clients can complete online. These forms are conditional, so you can ask questions that will determine the structure of the next few sections of the organizer or the questionnaire. And they're smart in a way because they also save the client responses, and then you can reuse for next instances if you want to continue using this electronic version of a questionnaire. Here, clients can also upload documents, and when they submit the questionnaire to you, somebody in your firm is going to get notified by email. And the true advantage is when the client completes their questionnaires or their engagement letters, all the action items pending, the job in the pipeline is going to move to the next stages of the process. Now, for purposes of testing here, I'm going to skip all these questions, and I'm going to jump actually to the firm side for a moment, just because I want you to see here how this number 2 for the client changes to a number 1 because the client already submitted already completed the engagement letter. So that here, the number 1 just indicates how many of those action items are still pending. So here I have 1 engagement letter, status is signed, 1 organizer still pending, with progress of 2. So here on the client side, I answered just the first thing I believe, or 1 or 2 questions, and this is how much progress I've made. Now I'm gonna just mark this complete manually. Okay, so I'm gonna click the questionnaire, just go to it really quick. This is the firm perspective on kind of looking at those questionnaires. You can see the answers that they've given you so far. Okay, I'm just gonna mark it complete. So let's just go here. Second, guys, go back here to organizers. All right, let me go back to right here. Here. So when the client completes that questionnaire, what's going to happen is those jobs will just move to the next stages. I'm going to try to move it manually just so we can see what happens. Okay, to review documents, because we still have 1 pending organizer. The system still is asking me what we want to do with it, basically. So it's asking for for us to resolve it somehow. So here at the bottom, I can see I'm going to submit it just to mark it complete. And then the next automation that wants to trigger based off this movement is a task who will be assigned to one of our team members. Now here, I think what you want to do is, I think best practice would be to either predefine who deals with those documents that were submitted by the client, or just depending on how your firm operations are, you could just notify everybody or a team or a specific person. Those assignees can be placed here in the job card, or you can use assignees in the template of the task itself. We'll show that to you in a couple seconds. Right now, the template does not have anybody. That's why this drop down here is blank. And I can just assign it manually to somebody. I'm just going to assign it to myself. Okay, here. And then I'm going to hit move. Okay, so 2 things just happened, right? We completed the questionnaire manually for the client. We just kind of, basically sent the client to complete that. And then we also created another task for one of our team members. Now, this is a team member or an internal status. So in the pipeline, I'm not actually notifying the client that we're going to review documents. I'm not actually doing any automation on that side. We are just getting, or somebody in our team is getting an email saying, hey, Edgar, here's your new task assigned to you. Review documents for John Doe and spouse, right? So that's what's happening on the second stage. I'm going to make a quick pause just to see if there's any questions about what we're covering. Some people are asking about, you can go back and change. We're going to continue talking about due dates in a couple seconds, guys. We will cover as well the process for signatures. Don't worry, we're going to get there in a moment. And okay, Russ, just if you could tell us a little bit about how you're dealing with assigning tasks, just so that people know what to do with these automation.
All right, excellent. Yeah. So one of the things that how we handle tasks is, we've got 15 staff, and so on each client, we are going to we'll just simplify and talk about 1040s. We're going to assign a preparer and usually a reviewer. Okay. Because we also have two offices, we're also going to assign an admin because we've got a different admin for each office. And so that's a tag. How we currently are doing that is we're going to have 3 tags on every single 1040 client um, to to um, to assign that job. So we're going to create conditions here in our pipeline that are going to basically say um, if the tag exists for um, if we want the partner in our case, this is a little bit different process than how we would do it. If we wanted the preparer to review the initial batch of documents, then our condition we would set up here, Edgar, would be to, if this preparer tag exists on this client, then assign this task to that preparer. And so we would use that preparer tag. So I think if you look under where you've got it set up, you've got preparer 1. Okay. And so we would just under this under edit, we would set up a condition to assign that task to prepare 1 on this job.
Exactly. And so that's one of the potential use cases for conditional automation, guys. If you do have a team which and you're able to predefine who gets the task, right? There's one of the approaches you can utilize. Define somebody as a preparer or the reviewer or manager, and then the system could look at those tags and assign specific automation when those jobs reach those stages. All
And
right.
if you're a smaller office, you can just pre-put it in your template. So in your template, if you've got the same person for the most part is going to receive the documents, if that's going to be a partner or if that's going to be the preparer or an admin person, then you can just put it in your template and just put your template's going to be that person. And so same thing, your review template to review the return, that task can just be your main reviewer. So the pipeline can be much more simplistic with way less variables for smaller for firms with 2, 3, 4 people, and larger firms are going to have to build in some more variables, and really you could probably show them on the other pipeline some of those variables. You've already built that out on the other pipeline, Edgar. So those variables, we show those later. But that's how you can build to where as you move it between stages, you can build with conditions. And we're doing the same thing with the engagement letters. We're basically saying and just like you're doing in the first stage, we're saying if it has the 1040 tag, then send the engagement letter to send the 1040 engagement letter. We're doing those same conditions, but we're going to do that with staff.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you. I see 2 questions that are, I think, very important we go over, guys. What happens? Somebody's asking what happens when you add a job to the process and the system wants to send the client an engagement letter or an organizer. And like I said, that translates to the client getting an email about the organizer engagement letter. So if the client is new and has never used TaxDome before, that email will actually look different. The email is still going to prompt the client to complete the questionnaire, or it will prompt them to sign the engagement letter, but it will also ask them to create a password. So the email is going to be something like, you got a new engagement letter to sign, but click here to activate your account first. So they need to activate that, and then after activation, they will be taken to the next page where they have to sign or complete the questionnaire, etc. So they do get the email. It's just that the email is different if they're new or if they're an existing user of the system. I hope that clears that question. All right. Now, somebody's also asking if, so where do those internal tasks go? And I think that's a really good one, because when a task is assigned to a team member, first of all, the team member gets an email, right? Or they could get an email depending on the preferences of because everybody has notification preferences on their account settings here at the top right corner. But essentially, that team member is notified, and if they go to workflow tasks on the within their own profile of TaxDome user profile, they will see those to do items that they need to complete. For example, here the pipeline, because the client completed the questionnaire and they signed the engagement letter, the system's assuming that we have some documents that need to be reviewed. So the team members, they can go here, complete those tasks, or change the priority, move the due dates, click the task to see more details. Okay. For those of you that want to know more about how can I collaborate with my team, well, there's multiple places like task descriptions where you can actually mention your team and tell them maybe something you need or something that needs to be reassigned. But the bottom line is, once this task is complete by the team member or by somebody in your office, this will then trigger that same job to move to the next status in the pipeline. So let's just go here quickly, back to the same workflow so you can see what the next status is. So right now the job is currently sitting at review documents. Okay. And the next two stages are what we call conditional stages. So if we go to the editing section of this pipeline, and if you have this template, I really want you to explore the editing section of the pipeline. So when I click here, you're going to see that the third and fourth stage, they both have this stage condition. So what this means is the any jobs that enter this stage, they can only enter the stage if they have the missing documents tag. So this is where the preparer needs to determine whether you're missing something or if you're not missing anything. Okay. And if you are missing something, you either just move the client over to the next stage. But if I'm not missing anything, and this can go directly to prep, and this can get assigned to a preparer, I can go back to my same window, the workflow, and then tasks, so that I can complete the task. And once I do that, the job is going to just skip all the missing document stages, right? And it will go straight into preparation. It will skip all the conditional stages because they do not apply to this client. The client does not have the tag, thus it will not enter. The client will not enter those stages that are conditional to one of those tags. And you can verify if the client meets the criteria just by looking at this menu. If I hover the mouse over this little number indicator, it is telling me the client's not assigned a tag. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and complete that task on my other window. And again, I'm in here in the workflow tasks section. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that. And because I have no more tasks, this list is going to be empty. But then if I go back to my to my pipelines here, and I go to the Bootcamp 2024, now that job just skipped the conditional stages, right? So essentially, we want to create stages that are specific to certain groups of clients, and this same idea can be applied. I think there's a lot of use cases. I love how. Go ahead. Sorry, Russ.
Yeah, and if you can click on the job card, Edgar,
Absolutely. Here.
and then just click on the task. Just scroll down and click on the task. So yeah, go ahead and click it. So you don't really, from a work standpoint, you don't really have to go back and forth between the tasks. Edgar's showing you just so you know there's multiple places to see it. But when you're kind of working in the program, you really can just stay on the job card, and really you can. Now we're in the job card, and then you can just see the task and actually have sidebarred basically both the job card and the task card open, and then you can go back on the task card, and you can complete the task card right here on this screen. Okay. And so, or uncompleted, so right here basically everything you need is right here on this job card. So that task, and then you can, like Edgar said, you can take notes. So what our personal preference is when it's time to take notes or give comments, we don't do them typically under the task. We typically do our notes under the job card. We want our notes to, because some of our jobs might have 4, 5, 6 tasks, and then we might have to be looking for notes. So we keep our job notes in the description here under the job, not under our tasks. But that's a personal preference. That how we do it in our office. And then also when we're adding people, typically to kind of give comments, maybe give status, let them know it's ready, or let them know why we're on hold. Just to, if you page down a little bit, Edgar, we use the job comments down here below, which is really it's on this same job card. If you page down just a little bit, Edgar, I don't think I can see it
Yeah.
on your screen, but there's a job comments on this screen
Right.
here. Yeah, and so here we'll use this to act to really kind of communicate with other staff, and we use this extensively to for maybe let someone know a status. But our kind of to-do list or our open items we keep up in descriptions, and then here is maybe, hey, this return's ready, even though we are going to get an automation to say that, but sometimes you want to expand on that, why, maybe the client's looking for it right away. They've got needed for a bank loan or something like that. So you've got to kind of put some priority on it. And so we'll use these comments to say, hey, you got to get this out today at Russ, get this out right away, that type of thing. And then I'm going to get not only the reminder email from TaxDome, I'm also going to get this email here, like this is on fire. Versus, and we keep it all in TaxDome. This is our knowledge base. We're not sending each separate emails. This is going to be an email, but now there's a record of it. It's date stamped. It's nice.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Russ. So I totally agree with you. I think from realistically, when you're looking, when you're prepared, when you're using TaxDome, every single day, you want to stay in just one page and do everything from it, right? There's of course different views for all this data that we're going to be managing, but when you click the job card, like Russ said, everything is here, right? So just from here, but just by looking at the workflow, right? The next stage after prep is review, and somebody was asking, okay, what happens if we then notice something's missing? Can we move the job backwards? The answer is yes, totally. And you can do that by dragging and dropping it, or just you can click it and then just change the stage. Okay, so I could just here, if I'm missing something, I can just change the stage and put it in missing information. Not only I can do that, but I saw another, in the Q&A asking, how do we let the client know, right? So here I could have a status, that if, I can make that automatic, but if here I can just put on hold, and then we are missing some documents. Please review, right? And when I do that, right, the client gets those updates. Now the system will want to, of course, resolve all the pending items. So I'm just going to click here, move, so that the job actually gets moved to the missing item stage. Let's go back here to refresh real quick. And there you have it, right? So for example, now the client on their end, they'll get this update, and I'm going to share the portal really quick. So what happened on the app is the work in progress just got updated, right? And the client is now, they're getting this red work in progress section telling them that they're missing some, the firm's missing some documents, right? So that's just one of the use cases there. Let's make a quick pause here. And Natalie's asking about adding a holding stage. Natalie, so you guys can totally edit the templates that we're providing you, right? If you want to add or remove stages, it's try to get familiar with the editing section of the pipeline. So this is the front end of the process, but what you want to do is you want to click this button to the right, okay? And then from here is where you can edit the current stages, or you can add or remove any additional steps to your process. So what, for example, what Russ does, and Russ, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you do have a holding stage at the very beginning of your process, correct?
Yep, that's right. And yeah, just call it hold stage, and you don't have to have anything in this stage. But where we use it for our hold stages, we're doing some job assignments there. As you know, we like we said, we use some conditionals to assign. I mean, we had used some tags to put staff on both the team, as well as to assign the job. So we go ahead and we trigger all those up here, and we make sure that. So in that way, if we've changed some staffing around in the office, and we've re-tagged a few, and that's one of the nice things about tagging is I can say, all right, show me all of this employee's 1040s, and I can get all 100 of those 1040s, and then I can move some of those around. And then next year, when I move the job into the hold stage where I've got my conditional set, it's automatically going to now put that person on the teams I've put them on the client on their team, as well as assign them on the job that I want them to be assigned on. But it's not going to send anything to the client. So I can create this and do this in November or early December, and I can do my budgeting and have my job set up. But I'm not sending out organizers or anything like that. So it just depends on how early you want to, send out you start your 1040s or your corps, or, whether you want a holding stage or not.
Exactly. And so what that would look like, guys, if you did have a holding stage like Russ was describing it, you would just end up having, multiple jobs. I'm just gonna add here a lot of clients to that holding stage, and because it doesn't have any automation whatsoever,
You
right?
don't want auto move on that stage because you don't want it auto moving to the next stage. Because there's no automations, I guess it shouldn't auto move.
Exactly. Yeah, no, there wouldn't be anything. So, I mean, of course, somebody
But
has to move the
if you
job.
did throw some automations on it, like say you threw some, like we do, I personally would turn auto move. That would be one of the stages I would not have auto move on, because that's a stage I want to control what date I send out my kickoff email, and I want to, and I do that in mass. That's the great thing is here is it's really just click that button and then I drag them all at one time. Or I found in prior years, I might do a couple hundred at a time. I wouldn't necessarily try to send out 1,000 at once or something like that. And I would have someone in the office just move. But maybe it's I just haven't tested where we would send all 1,000 at once, and I didn't know if I would if that would work to try to send that many at once.
All right, awesome, perfect. And then just so you guys know, if you had a stage like this one with no automation from it, like Russ was saying, you can add it. First of all, let's go over that process again, so you can learn how to edit it. How to edit the processes that the templates that we're providing you with.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the editing section, you want to click these buttons. Okay, adding a stage. There's a couple, right? There's here another one on the right. If you want to add a stage in between two, right, you can just click that button, name the stage, and drag it and move it with this little double ellipses icon here. So that's what we just did, right? And I'm gonna go back to the pipeline. Hit OK.
Edgar, I've saw a couple times a question on how we do extensions, and I think I've seen it in the marketplace and from other firms, and how we also do it is that we've got a couple stages for extensions, and that will apply an extension needed tag as a variable, and then a extension, and then a second stage. So that's the first stage, and then it'll be a second stage that will be extension filed, and it will also create tasks in each of those two stages. So the one stage will be extension needed, and it creates a task. And of course, that task is going to be assigned to who we tagged as the preparer on the job. And then the extension filed is going to remove the extension needed tag. That's one of the nice things. That's a variable that you can have, a condition you can have, is to not only add tags but remove tags. And so then once we put the extension filed, we remove the extension needed tag. And so those are a couple stages that you can have, and you'll see that from if you look at any of the out there right now, not just the marketplace but also in the library, you'll see some of the sample pipelines that will have extensions as their own stages here in the job or in the pipeline.
Exactly. And just so you guys know exactly what that would be like, adding those, extension stages, you can just add it here in the editing section again. Russ, but more or less, where in the process would you actually add those extension stages, toward the end or in the middle?
I'm going to tell you, here's the beautiful thing about this is, you can put it where you want and you can move it around during tax season. So, I will tend to in April, I keep them at the end, both those two stages until it's time to do extensions. And then I tend to move it over, right before, or right after prepare. And I'll move both those stages over, by prepare. So like you've showed how you can kind of drag a stage around. That's the beautiful thing about these is you can move stages around if you change your mind and you've got some stages in your jobs. Um, you know, it's pretty easy to do that. So I don't want those over the whole time of the year. I don't want them over in the middle of my process, but I do want them in the middle of my process come, whatever, April 1st or, March 25th. So they sit at the end just like this. I've got some conditionals in here, as we talked about, adding some tags, but I drag them over. I move those two stages over. And then as soon as we get them all filed, and we've updated our due dates, then I'm going to move them all back over.
That's great. That's great. And so you guys know, to make one of the stages, if you're gonna add those stages, right? I think extensions, you want to make those stages conditional, just definitely conditional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or right, you want to make sure the stage controls the tag on the client, right? So sometimes, as I've seen stages like this one that just make it assign a tag to the client. So one of the automation items here that I can add to the stages is assign that tag, so update account tags, and I can have that stage just confirm or assign, right, that tag to those clients who reach or I move into that stage,
Yep.
like Ross was saying.
Yep. Exactly. And then I'll have I will create a task called file at 1040 file extension, and then it'll be only for 1040 clients. And then we'll have a 1120s file extension only for 1120s clients. So we'll have that. So we'll also create a task and assign that, and then the same thing on the extension filed. We're going to update tags there. We're going to have an automation under the extension filed phase where we're going to add extension filed tag and remove the extension needed tag, because at that point we've already filed for the extension. So and then as soon as we get approved, okay, so we get our extension, it comes back, we print it into our work papers, and then we take the job, from extension filed. We change the due date on the job, and then we move the job back into the wherever it was in the phase in the job. So if it was in prepare, then we're going to move it back into prepare. If it was into missing information, we're going to move it back into, if it was on partner review. So we are going to, and that's a manual move today. We're not going to leave it in the extension, filed phase. We're going to get it back out of that column and into the right column.
So just so again that's clear, Ross, when a job is an extension filed, right? Where do you move that then manually again?
We're going to move it back to the stage that it was at. So, we're going to open it back up the job. We're going to see, who's open on task, so if that job, like we were looking at it, if that job here says waiting for e-file, or if that job was, on partner review, we're going to move it back into the stage of where it should be, or if it was on missing information, whatever the proper stage was. Because we don't want it to be an extension needed and extension filed for very long. We want it to be, in the right stage in our process. So if it's missing information, we want it to be, in missing information, so that we're still actively, going to get that information. And of course, usually we know extension filed also means missing information, but we definitely try to get those back. But many times it just means we didn't finish it. And so many times we want that back to partner review, or we have all the information, we need that back on the prepare. And so we don't want it, we want to clear out extension filed pretty quickly, and get it right back in the right stage. Sorry.
Awesome. So thank you very much.
And of course, there's some new features coming along. I think that's going to alleviate that with statuses. So
exactly.
that,
Yeah,
that,
just what I was thinking, right?
that's so TaxDome has hurt us on for those of us that don't like stages for extensions. TaxDome's hearing us on this, guys, and man, they're working on some great things to make this better. So just know that.
Yeah, and I just saw your one question from Sheila. She was saying that she has a separate pipeline for extensions, and I think, look, that's not a bad idea either, right? So I've seen that as well work just fine.
Yeah.
You can totally do that. You can move the jobs from one pipeline to another. So then that idea does make a lot of sense. And then with the custom job statuses, we're gonna have, guys, you're gonna be able to make that process way easier. Now, Russ, one question that I saw, and I think it is very important because this happens quite often, was what are your best practices when it comes to dealing with those open items or missing documents when you notice something's missing and you need the client to address something? What exactly do you do in the pipeline, in the workflows?
Well, we definitely from the job card, we're going to create because we want it attached to the job, so we're going to create a chat, and we're going to, from within that chat, we're going to go new over there in the top right, and we're going to list for them what we need. And now with the new feature here of client requests, where we're building out our library of kind of our most common things that we ask for from clients, so whether, okay, home office, and then we'd have to sit there and type out, give us this, and this for your home office, and then upload this document. Now we're able to just build out that standard request and say, upload this, and this, and then you can, of course, grab the template, but then maybe they've already given you a couple of those things. You can edit the template before you send it. So there's some nice features, and so we're going to, as far as missing information, we're going to tag them as missing information and move them into that phase. But we're definitely going to use chats, and from within client chats, we'll also use client requests that'll both be attached to the job. And more importantly, it's very nice. They're integrated in here in the job card. So when anyone looks at the job card, you're going to see everything here: proposals and tasks and chats and engagement letter, and client requests. Your time entry is going to be here. Your time versus your budget. All that data is here. You're totally able to this always, when you're in TaxDome, for us, this is always one of the screens I've got open. In addition, I got a tab open for, of course, the documents that we're looking at. But I'm really able to work through the job from this screen.
Awesome. And exactly what I was going to say about utilizing the new clients request, because you guys will be able to, you can do it with a chat as well, because chats and client requests kind of just link with each other, right? But what you want to do here is definitely let the client know what they're missing. So there is always some sort of a step in the process where you need to let the client and the system know that something's missing. So ideally, you'd go to the job and then just either start a new chat here, or use client requests to let the client know what you are missing. What Russ was saying is, the client requests will be, in my opinion, the by far the best way that you can ask questions to the clients, because these can then be used in your communication with the client in the portal. So clients can reference requests when they're chatting with you. When you're using the Firm mobile app, if you have it on your phone, you will be able to see those messages as well. And then everything is just going to be kept in the same place. I think it's going to be a huge advantage. And if I do this here, this is just like if I was creating a questionnaire for the client. So here I can say, missing documents or, questions, right? and then here's where I can start asking for document uploads, or I can start asking questions, and then when I click here send, and I can configure everything, the client's going to get an email with my request, and when they complete the request, because it's linked with the job, it will move that job to the next stages. And I always also recommend having a stage, post missing documents, because you want to know when that happens, and you want to notify your team to go look at what was what was actually done by the client. Just make sure everything you needed is there already. Okay, I'm gonna make a quick pause again. Just look at if there's any additional questions. Russell, just off topic, but somebody was asking if what are you currently using for billing? Can you just tell us a little bit about if you're integrating your billing here in the
Sure.
workflows?
So yeah, so we're using TaxDome for our billing, and I think I'm seeing the question from Natalie about like out of scope billing, and kind of one-off type billing, billable, non-billable time. For non-billable time, we have a firm client. We just call it, we've created it called Firm, and that way we can put our admin time to the firm, and we just mark it as non-billable, and then that way we get our we can track our total hours, and for our billable time, if it's not something as part of a job, which by and large we try to get everything associated with a job, but there's lots of things that happen that maybe just a quick consultation that's unrelated to the 1040. We'll put that time in, and typically what I'm doing, and encouraging staff to do more and more, and I think it's just a fantastic feature our old billing system didn't have, is scheduled billing. And so as partner, the old way we used to do it was have to get to the end of the month and go through your whips and spend trying to find the onesies and twosies from all your staff to bill out. It was a real pain, and so I've got my team knows that if they've got special requests, where we've done something for an hour or two that's outside scope, is that everyone just schedules their own bills. They don't go out automatically until so we'll schedule them out usually 15 to 30 days out. And then my admin team gets with me, make sure that me or one of the other partners reviews them, and then then I send them, or one of my partners send them. And so that scheduling bill, don't sleep on that. That's a really nice feature where your staff can help you bill, so you don't have a half a day or day billing at month end, and you don't. And so now. And you don't forget yourself to do it. So I'm really using the schedule when I do some one-offs. And sometimes I know where maybe I might work on it 2 or 3 times. I might schedule that bill, then come back, edit it, and add some more time to it if I work on it the next day. But it's not something where I was going to set up a job for it. By and large, though, where it's a project, I try to set up a job. So if it's responding to an IRS notice or a sales tax audit, or it's a one-off type project, but I'm still going to set up a job, and we've got pipelines for those type things, and we're going to track that time. And I would point out, that's one of the features. There's a time entry at the top of TaxDome. We always try to launch, other than admin time, we try to launch timers from within the job card, because that keeps the time associated with the job. And so that's how we do it, and then we see the time there. As far as billing, like on our job billing, we're going to, like I've said, many of our clients are going to get an engagement letter up front, and they're billed. Many of our corporate returns, we have a year-end fee that we bill on January either 1st or 15th, and we draft it. So probably half of our tax clients, we've already will have drafted their return, and we've already had them sign their engagement letter in December and drafted their year-end tax fee. And our engagement letter accounts for the fact that if things change significantly, that this is based on a time budget of this, and or things being similar to prior years. So we're pretty much in a position where we're going to pre-bill the majority of our corporate clients for their tax returns. So the ones that we don't, we're going to bill, at the review phase, and then of course we tend to, on the majority of our clients, lock our invoice behind the 8879. We won't do that in all instances. We've got some clients that have been with us for 20 years, and we're more than comfortable. They're going to not be a headache to chase around or anything. So if we know they've got a great history of paying timely, we're not gonna lock it. But for the most part, we've got our new clients trained that they're going to most likely pay us. Our engagement letters, we're gonna most likely get paid to to start the engagement. We're not gonna do the work and get paid at delivery. We're going to give them, but they've got the satisfaction of knowing also that this is what their fee is going to be, and we definitely, are giving proposals up front and charging our clients up front, maybe 50%, at signing, and then 50% we'll charge them. We use CPA charge, which integrates very nicely with TaxDome. And then we might charge the other 50% in whatever 15, 30 days, or at delivery. We'll work that out with them, but we'll have their card on file with CPA charge, and we'll draft that fee. So that's kind of how we do our billing process. And so we really work toward, we keep our, our AR, very low. We try to have very, very little AR to bother with, because we have most of our clients on a monthly retainer, and we have year-end fees for the majority of our year-end clients, of our tax clients. Even our 1040 clients now, many of them have year-end fees that we charge in January. So we don't, I don't want to spend time worrying about whether, and the clients know what they're, what they're going to pay up front most of the time. And so when we go out of scope, and we do give our clients a time budget, we will adjust a bill from time to time, but for the most part, I think we do a pretty good job of budgeting.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that detailed explanation, Russ. We're about to wrap up with the testing, guys, of in a couple of minutes. We'll continue with basically finalizing and talking about more of the reporting things and time tracking and budgeting on the jobs themselves. Something I do want to highlight about what Russ just said was how he was, or his team are using the timers here to actually track time and link it to a job specifically, right? And I think it's a very important thing, because in the end, I think most of you, right, at least some of you are using the time not to just send an invoice to the client after, but some are using it to track performance, or just try to see whether you're spending too much time doing something, right, a specific job for a specific client. So just linking that time to the jobs is going to help you be able to do those type of analysis. So this is one of the ways you can track time here. Launch a timer, and then enter time after the fact as well as an option here on the jobs. So, but this is the screen you want to look at. I think most of the time it's going to track time. Awesome. All right, guys. So, somebody asked if we could show how to move one job to a different pipeline. There's 2 ways to do that, guys. You can here just click the job card, and then here in workflow, you have a section for moving it to a different pipeline. So if you had a separate extensions pipeline that you want to move the job to, you just click that drop down, move it, right? And then select the stage in that other pipeline. And that's the first way to do it. The second way is you can also move job cards in bulk from one pipeline to another. And you can do that by clicking the boxes here in the top right corner of the job, or click the top box in the stage. And if you click move here, this is going to be a bulk move of jobs. So here I can move into a separate pipeline or to a different stage en masse, because this is a bulk movement of those jobs. All right. Let's make another quick pause here for more questions. I see questions about time tracking. We're gonna cover time tracking more, in much more detail tomorrow. because we're going to talk about reports as well, and we'll show you some examples that you can start building in your own system. But thank you very much. Russ, somebody had a question about testing the workflows. So I'm sure when you do changes in your pipeline, which you just said you sometimes you move stages, from the end of the pipeline to the to the middle, or you move them from the middle to the end. Are there any sort of testing you do with all those changes you make progressively?
Yep. So when we test, we're going to test the automations, so that internally, the automations are happening, and it's assigning the proper staff. It's moving it from stage to stage. We're also testing, the notifications it's sending out, emails and engagement letters and various things that it's sending out to the clients. And so that's the thing that I would, recommend that you set up yourself with your sample client to a personal email. And then, I typically, when I'm working in TaxDome, I'm going to have in Chrome, I'm going to have, the firm, TaxDome up, and then over in Microsoft Edge, I'm going to have open, my sample client account, and then basically I'm going to interact. So I know I've seen people with questions, hey, how does it look for the e-signature? Just go do a few and do some e-signatures and send them to your client account, and just send yourself some organizers. You don't have to complete the whole thing, but really test it, get comfortable with the technology. One of the things really nice about like the client organizers is they can be completed, they can be uncompleted, they can be submitted, they can be unsubmitted. So you can help the client. You can complete some of the questions if they don't complete them properly. If they answer it incorrectly and you email them and they change, you're right, I did have that. Then you can change an answer. It keeps an audit trail, and so it's very flexible.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much for that, Russ. And then just quickly, guys, we're going to just, because we're tomorrow, we'll be talking a lot about invoicing, time tracking, reports, and how those, all the data from the pipelines link to the reporting. We want to make sure everybody is aware of, what are some of the things you can do with TaxDome as far as invoicing and time tracking goes. So here we have, let me pull the next slide here really quickly. So we talk a little bit about this, how you can start tracking all of your work, how you can look at the job view, and then look at all the different data, the comments, collaboration with your team, all the pending action items as well. For tomorrow, we'll have just really quickly here let me go to the okay, we'll cover this conditional automations as well. Now this is gonna be interesting for you guys that wanna use workflows for recurring type of processes. Now tomorrow we will actually explain you guys how to set this up. I don't think we actually want to do with the template that we shared with all of you today. But essentially those jobs that we added today manually, right? They can be scheduled to get added on a certain date or under a specific cycle that repeats. And so just to give you an idea, if you're new to TaxDome right now and you're preparing for next tax season, some of the ideas we want you to have for later is that you can use TaxDome for all of those recurring type of workflows. For example, if you do sales tax or payroll bookkeeping, there are workflows you can make repeat and then have specific automation trigger on a recurring basis. And those jobs can have their own schedule that trigger automation that is specific to each client every single time. So we'll talk how you can configure them tomorrow into one sample pipeline, and we'll try to address some questions as well, just in case you want to prepare later for other different type of workflows. All right,
Yep.
let's.
And that's one of the nice things about the job reoccurrences, Edgar, is you can have different, like on payroll, you can have, or sales tax, you can have clients with different, you can have your monthly, your quarterly, your annual sales tax in the same pipeline. Same thing, payroll, you can have weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly, all in the same pipeline because and they all have their own reoccurrence pattern that you set up, and they can actually, if you want, use the same job template, or you can set up separate job templates for each one if you want to have some different wording or due dates or start dates. So you really have some flexibility there in how you set up your reoccurrences as well as your job templates there. But you can run them all, which I recommend, running, like running all your live payrolls from one pipeline, or running all your sales tax from the same pipeline. I wouldn't run like, separate pipelines by due date or by occurrence pattern.
Exactly. And then on the same, like just on the same note, guys, we do have as well, um, recurring invoices. There are a couple of features you can just make repeat, just like we were talking yesterday about tasks and how you can assign a task that repeats on and has a cycle. The same thing can happen with invoices. So we'll make sure to cover all those use cases tomorrow, and then show you again how you can use the data to analyze and create your own reports as well. Now, just before we wrap up, I know our team's gonna want to make appear those polling questions. So I'm gonna ask my team here to go ahead and make those polling questions appear. You're gonna see them, guys, on the bottom left of your screen. Make sure you vote as well. Those are very important to us. So you guys can get your certificates as well. Make sure you get us an answer. So let's see a couple more questions for you. We'll leave those to before we wrap up today's webinar. All right, guys. So let's just do quickly a recap of today. We'll continue tomorrow with, again, finalizing the testing, and we'll talk about the invoices, reports, and time tracking. So today we talk about some of the workflow basics, as we just did a recap on the terminology. We want to make sure you are familiar with what a job is, what a task is, what a pipeline is, and if you have questions, please, guys, let us know. Always, we have a support team that can help you out understand these concepts way better. When you talk to someone one-on-one, I think it makes a lot more sense, because we're going to be talking about your specific use cases. And so definitely reach out to us if you have questions about that. We covered briefly some conditional automation use cases, like how you can use pipelines to send specific questionnaires or specific engagement letters to specific segments of clients. An example, a 1040 client receiving a 1040 engagement letter, right? And that's something you can configure into the pipeline. So when you add your jobs, your clients to the process, they'll get specific action items to complete. Recurring jobs, again, are some of those basically workflows that are going to repeat. You can use those for payroll, sales tax, and we'll talk tomorrow how to actually configure them into your process. We're not going to use them again in the template that we have shared with you today. They're going to find in the library, but we'll just talk about how you can use that for other workflows later. About optimizing your pipelines. Now, this is something that I wanted to sort of emphasize and have you guys just understand better what the client-facing status was. So what we really want you to do, throughout this bootcamp is at least implement the client-facing status automation into your process. If you're not new to TaxDome, go to your editing area in all of your pipelines and try to look at where it makes sense to let the client know the status of the work in progress. So in my opinion there, I think the best practice is always let the client know when they have to do something, right? So if they're missing documents, or they have to answer questions, or if you're just waiting for them to sign something or pay you, right? Those are opportunities for you to use the client-facing statuses. So when the client logs into the app or they go to their platform, they always know that there's something pending they have to complete. So definitely, again, look at the editing section of your pipelines, all of your existing workflows, and then start using the client-facing update status automation. And again, let us know if you have questions about that tomorrow. We'll be talking about it more, but we really want you guys to start using it. And then finally, we talked, with Ross here. By the way, Ross, I loved how you described how you used, how you currently in your team, and you use the job view, because when you click a job, that's really everything you need to see, right? You see all the action items, you see what's completed already, you see all the comments, You can tag your team, you mention your team, and send them a notification about it. So really, that is how we want you guys to start using TaxDome and just managing all the jobs. Utilize the job view, because that is going to be your all-in-one place to look at everything that's happened so far. All right. And Russ, just before we leave, there were a couple of questions I wanted you to just help address here with our community. Um, one of those questions was that I think you talked about briefly yesterday, was about how you determine how much time to budget for a return specifically. Can you tell us what is your best practice on how you assign those budgets?
Well, sure. As far as I look at the client's information that they've provided, and so that's going to really be a big factor in what goes into that. And if it's a Schedule C, are they giving us a good listing of income and expenses, or are we going to have to do some bookkeeping and go back and forth and kind of get some information from the client? I'll look at same thing, like if they've got rentals, have they done improvements? And so it's, are we going to have some assets we're going to need to capitalize? And so, they could have the same return from year to year, but they bought, several, they've, made changes to the roof or did improvements on their rental property. And one year it could vary by a couple, 3-4 hours and increase the bill, from one year to the next. And so we definitely, take a look at, what's going on in there. And so we try to, that's one of the reasons when we're vetting a new client is we want them to upload all their information. And then we do, usually either a Zoom, ideally a Zoom call, because it's always good to, be face to face, but a minimum a phone call with your prospect and go through that information. And because you've got all their information, hopefully at that point, or at least a good chunk of it, you can, figure out, do they have a lot of things that are going to, make the time be a little bit higher. So I think some of it's just experience, like where you're able to go through and estimate, how long that's going to take you. But sometimes, the two tax returns, the output is exactly the same, but one took you 15 hours and one took you 5, because the work behind it, to get it done, one required a lot of bookkeeping and back and forth with client, and the other one, the client really gave you everything. So that's the clients we're all looking for. Although if they both pay, maybe the first one's just fine too. So I guess that's the answer.
Yes. Thank you very, very much. All right, guys. We'll continue tomorrow with some more content. We'll finalize again with the testing of this pipeline. Well, I saw some questions about, okay, what do clients do when they have to sign? So we'll cover the client perspective more in depth as well, and we'll end the session tomorrow with reporting and some of the things that we believe you should start using for the next tax season, as far as time tracking and then just managing all that data that you're going to get from the workflows. Thank you again for watching, and Ross, thank you again for all this feedback. Great questions today, guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow.